Finn Harps, we're really on our way. Finn Harps, we're really here to stay. We're the team that scolded goals, we scold them at our ease in the Finn Park Volleyball Fay. Once there was a football team in the old Donegal. People thought that in their league they had no chance at all. But they made them eat their words, they made them feel so small when they come to Volleyball Fay. Finn Harps, we're really on our way. Finn Harps, we're really here to stay. We're the team that scored the goals, we scored them at our ease at the Finn Park Volleyball Fay. All the northwest of the land regard them as their own. We follow them in Donegal, in Derry and Tyrone. Every second Sunday you can hear the merry tone in the ground at Volleyball Fay. Finn Harps, we're really on our way. Finn Harps, we're really here to stay. We're the team that scolded goals, we scored them at our ease in the Finn Park Volleyball Fay. Finn Harps, we're really on our way. Finn Harps, we're really here to stay.
Finn Park, the home of Finn Harps Football Club. It's the start of the 2004 season. It's a particularly big year for the club. This year it celebrates its 50th anniversary. In the First Division, 3 teams will be promoted at the end of the season. Hopes are high that Harps can get promoted to the Premier and back where they belong. Finn Harps began the season under manager Noel King, but received an early setback as they lost 2-1 away to Kilkenny City in their first match at Buckley Park. So there was already pressure on Harps for their first home game of the season, which was against UCD. Harps got what proved to be the winner after 35 minutes. Aluka Zuku played the ball out to Paddy McGranahan, who found Kevin McHugh, and the Harps striker got into the box and carved out the opening to score. But UCD were almost back on level terms within 90 seconds when Harps goalkeeper James Gallagher completely missed the ball as he went out to clear, and Robbie Martin surged through only to be denied by a last gasp tackle from Declan Boyle. UCD then had another chance. Pat McWalter crossed from the right wing, and Gallagher redeemed himself as he made a great one-handed save to deny UCD's Willie Doyle. There was little in the way of goalmouth action after that, with Jonathan Minnock's run and strike being one of the few highlights before the break. In a tightly fought second half, the closest that Harps got to a second was this deflected effort from Kevin McHugh. The game and the weather both deteriorated in the closing stages, but the final whistle was still greeted with satisfaction by what was a disappointingly small attendance. Harps took on their great northwest rivals Sligo Rovers at Finn Park in the middle of April and were seeking their third win in 4 games. Shane Bradley rose to head home a Sean Fryers cross to put Harps ahead after just 16 minutes. Harps doubled their tally in the 31st minute, with Paddy McGranahan finding the target from the edge of the box. Harps effectively put the game beyond Sligo's reach in the second half when Niall Bonar found Kevin McHugh. Although his header was blocked, Neil Lloyd was on hand to force the ball home for his only goal of the season before he left for Omagh Town. Harps always had the edge against a very poor Sligo side. The visitors did get the ball in the net, but their celebrations were cut short after it was adjudged that they were offside, and the jubilation among the small band of travelling fans, plus the players, was a false dawn. At the other end, Harps also had the ball in the net again, but it was disallowed. Niall Bonar straying into an offside position before putting the ball between keeper and the post. It finished Finn Harps 3, Sligo Rovers 0. The early season form suggested that Harps would stay in the promotion frame. Finn Harps' first game in the post-Noel King era was against Bray Wanderers on the 30th of April. It was a special night for the club. Members of the FAI Cup winning side of 1974 were honoured. However, it was Bray Wanderers who were doing the celebrating on this occasion. Finn Harps, playing under caretaker manager Sean McGowan, were under pressure from early on, and the visitors were always lively on the counter-attack. Indeed, Harps endured a number of anxious moments in the opening stages. Bray, who have often been a thorn in the side of Finn Harps down through the years, got what proved to be the only goal of the game in the 26th minute. Kieran Ryan whipped in a left-wing cross, and Kieran Tarzan O'Brien headed home beyond the reach of James Gallagher. Harps, who were seeking to extend their unbeaten run to 6 games, had a number of chances to level before the break. One of the best opportunities fell to Paddy McGranahan, who burst down the left flank before shooting over. Paddy McGranahan and Tom Mohan were instrumental in a number of moves for Harps before the break, and there were certainly chances to draw level. One of the best chances fell to Kevin McHugh, but when the ball was whipped in from the right wing, although he was able to rise above the defence, he headed over the crossbar. In the second half, Harps had a number of opportunities, again from corners, and Kevin McHugh went close, as did Shane Bradley, who was wearing the number 9 shirt. Bray were forced to defend in numbers and certainly led a charmed life at times.
Oh, bitterly disappointed, Chris. I thought we played some fantastic football. First half we created maybe 3 or 4 fantastic chances. Wouldn't have been, I think we could have come in at half time, maybe a goal or 2 ahead instead of coming in behind. Couldn't fault the effort and the commitment. The players are bitterly disappointed with the result.
And in the second half it was really non-stop pressure, and yet somehow Bray survived.
Well, we knew coming out at half time that Bray would be content. They had scored a goal. We were thinking they would be content to sit back in there. It's always very hard to break down a defence who sits in there and be prepared to put bodies in behind the ball. But I could not fault the effort and the commitment of the players. They kept going right to the finish, and I think at the end up we definitely deserved something from the game.
Felix Healy was appointed as manager in May. In his first league game, Harps beat Monaghan 1-0 away thanks to a last-gasp Shane Bradley goal. His first home league game was against Athlone Town. Harps had the better of the opening half, but their first real threat didn't materialise until the 23rd minute. Kevin McHugh was fouled, and from the free, Sean Friars hit the upright. Struggling Athlone rarely threatened, and Friars was able to embark on a number of runs down the flank, and he could have put Harps ahead before the interval. The home side continued to hold the upper hand after the break. Kevin McHugh threatened on a couple of occasions, but just couldn't quite find the target. With 5 minutes left, Paddy McGranahan's corner was partially cleared, but only as far as substitute Gary Crossan. It was a memorable first goal of the season for the youngster. Harps then could have got a second. McGranahan found McHugh, whose shot went narrowly wide.
I decided about 5 or 6 minutes before half time just to take a wee gamble and see what would happen if we went 3 at the back, because they only played 1 up, and just to see what way it would influence the game. And there was a plus side to that, but there was also a minus side to that. We could have scored, but we also could have conceded because of that. And it's just given me a chance to have a look at that and various other things, because there's still a lot of the players here that I need to get to know.
By the time Finn Harps played Limerick at the end of June, the promotion race was hotting up. Harps beat the Shannon Siders 3-1 at Finn Park to go joint second with Bray, just 1 point behind league leaders UCD. Teenager Michael Funston got on the scoresheet by getting the first goal against Limerick after 22 minutes. The breakthrough was greeted with delight by his jubilant teammates. Harps were much the better team and should have got a second, when Chris Breen did well to go down the right and send the ball across for Paddy McGranahan, but somehow he hit the post rather than the target. Just before the break, Breen, another of the rising stars, surged into the box and fired in the second for Harps, and Limerick, the bottom club in Division 1, looked to be in dire trouble. Harps dominated the game for long periods but failed to add to their tally, and Limerick pulled a goal back out of nothing in the second half through Jonathan Myrna, who scored from a tight angle. Harps kept up the pressure and Limerick were forced to defend desperately. McHugh did well to create this chance, and Limerick were lucky to survive as Harps bombarded the visitors' goal. Moments later, McGranahan was to the fore again with a cracking effort that whizzed just past the post. Harps finally got a third to seal victory, with McHugh going down the right before looking up and seeing his striking partner Breen in space, and he tapped the ball home from close range, much to the relief of the Finn Park faithful.
It was a game that we made very hard work of. First half 2-0 up, and it could have been 5 or 6 and the game would have been dead and buried. The one thing that you always worry about, that it's too comfortable, it's too nice, and that's exactly what happened second half. We defended badly for the goal, and as you said, it made it very anxious. The last 15 minutes, which in the overall sense was ludicrous really, because that game should have been dead and buried a lot earlier than it was at the end.
When Finn Harps played Galway in July, Felix Healy's side were bidding to extend their unbeaten league run to 10 games. Anthony Gorman, who had played the week before in the 2-1 win over Sligo, was in the Harps lineup. Local photographer John Foy gets a quick team photo beforehand. Galway got off to a great start, with Derek O'Brien's corner being headed home by the menacing Barry Moran. Harps responded well and could have gone level after Anthony Gorman's cross was met by Kevin McHugh, whose first-time shot was well saved. Harps had the edge in the second half, and having gone close on a number of occasions, equalised with a contender for goal of the season on 75 minutes. Paddy McGranahan found Jonathan Minnock, whose cross was only cleared into the path of Anthony Gorman. The reaction from the midfielder, teammates and the crowd says it all. It was his first goal since returning to the club. In what was always an absorbing encounter, the game produced plenty of drama, including this rather unusual passage of play. Life can be tough in the Eircom League. Harps then grabbed an 88th minute winner, with Paddy McGranahan slipping the ball through for Chris Breen to get into the box and fire home. The rain may have been pouring, but the Harps fans were celebrating, and the promotion dream was very much alive.
I just remember hitting it, and I don't remember where it came. I think it may have been headed out, and just sitting there nicely to be hit, so it came on and hit it, and thankfully it ended up in the corner of that.
I suppose you could call it a hallmark Anthony Gorman strike.
Well, I haven't been scored too many of them recently, but it's delighted to get in the score sheet now, especially the first game back at Finn Park here after must be 12 years, so absolutely delighted.
away from the league action, Harps lost to Shelbourne in the FAI Cup, while a few days earlier in the League Cup they managed to reach the semi-final. They were drawn at home to Premier Division Cup specialists Longford Town. Harps lost possession following a free in the 18th minute, and Desi Baker sent Sean Prunty racing towards goal. Baker failed to connect, but Sean Francis was on hand to score. Harps then had a real let-off when goalkeeper James Gallagher miscued a clearance, and Dara Sheridan, spotting that the goalkeeper was off his line, could only look in disbelief as his shot smacked off the woodwork and back into play. The Midlanders then doubled their lead in the 55th minute when Desi Baker made the most of a defensive mix-up as he evaded the presence of Declan Boyle and the advancing Gallagher to score from close range and spark off noisy celebrations from the travelling fans. Within 90 seconds, Harps got a goal back to give them fresh hope. Jonathan Minnock's cross was steered home by the in-rushing Kevin McHugh, and it was game on once more, but Longford were to hold on to book their place in the final. Harps did have their chances, however, and one of the best moves involved Aluka Azuku, and his ball forward eventually found Kevin McHugh, although the striker's shot was well over the target. Harps never stopped battling, and Chris Breen pushed forward and nearly sneaked in to force what could have been a late equaliser. But in the end, it was the Flancare Park outfit who were left celebrating this victory.
But to be fair to Finn Harps, they threw a lot of players forward, took their chance well. Sloppy play from our behalf, but it was a good finish from Kevin McHugh. And as I said, the last 10 minutes or so, it was always going to be hanging on.
Having gone out of the League Cup and FAI Cup in successive games, Harps showed their bounce-back ability by beating Monaghan United 3-1 at home. Harps were never in danger of losing this game, with one of the best openings early on falling to Shane Bradley. Harps did go ahead on 35 minutes when Michael Funston set up Kevin McHugh to race towards the edge of the area and put the home side in front. It was an overdue goal given the amount of possession that Finn Harps had enjoyed. Monaghan were stunned again within 2 minutes when Paddy McGranahan did well to set up Shane Bradley for number 2, and Harps were well on the road to victory. The third goal for Harps came on 55 minutes, but there was more than a hint of controversy. Chris Breen's lob over Vladimir Montanu was adjudged to have crossed the line, but the Monaghan keeper and defenders were furious and were adamant that the goal should have been disallowed. However, their pleas were waved away. The goal stood and Harps led by 3-0. Monaghan did manage a consolation goal in the final minute, with Alan O'Connor tapping the ball in, but Harps collected the points to extend their unbeaten league run to 12 games.
I think we played better this season and got beat, but I think when we went 3-0 we got a bit complacent, and they had a few chances near the end, Yeah, it is very important. Kildare's still in there, just we concentrate on ourselves and concentrate on the next game, and that's all we have to do, really.
Finn Harps had good reason to celebrate their 1000th league game as they beat Bray 2-0 to go 3 points clear at the top with just 4 games left. The unbeaten run had ended after 17 matches when they lost to promotion rivals UCD 1-0 in September, but they quickly got back on track with wins over Limerick 4-1 away, Sligo 1-0 at home, and then a tremendous 5-1 success over Galway United at Terryland Park. The Harps fans knew that the match against Bray in October was one of those proverbial 6-pointers. Teenager Michael Funston was once again the hero. He bagged his 3rd goal in 3 games by hitching onto Aluka Azuku's shot to open the scoring on 27 minutes with a deft touch from 8 yards. Games between Harps and Bray are generally closely fought affairs, and both sides had chances after the break. Harps knew they had to keep a close eye on Pat Devlin's striker Eamon Zaid. At the other end, Harps also had their moments, but the resolute Bray defence were proving to be strong, and clear-cut chances were at a premium. Harps sealed victory on 73 minutes with a memorable goal. Paddy McGranahan and Kevin McHugh were involved in a neat build-up before recent signing from Sligo Rovers Ian Rossiter struck with a curling effort beyond the reach of Chris O'Connor. Bray's bad night was compounded late on when veteran midfielder Eddie Gormley lashed out at Michael Funston and was duly sent off as tempers frayed. It was an unwelcome end to proceedings, and Gormley was given a hostile reaction as he trooped off the Finn Park playing surface.
The young Funston, when he gets into those particular areas, isn't afraid, and he tucked it away brilliantly. The second goal, Ian Rossiter's getting a bit of stick in the dressing room there, but it was a great finish, good. It's everything we talked to Kevin McHugh about as well, but been involved in linking other people in. Great move, great finish, and I think that at 2-0, I felt that once we scored that, it was very difficult for them to come back.
Harps clinched promotion at the end of October. Their great rivals Sligo Rovers beat Kildare County on the Saturday night, a result that meant both Harps and UCD would be going up, while Bray and Kildare would battle it out for the third promotion spot. A large crowd of Harps fans travelled to Century Homes Park to give their side a huge welcome as they took to the field against Monaghan. Hopes were high that Harps would get another 3 points to edge even closer to the title, but it turned out to be a somewhat frustrating afternoon. From the word go, it was virtually one-way traffic. Following this promising build-up, Paddy McGranahan had a shot saved by Vladimir Montanou. Then Kevin McHugh got down the right and crossed, but McGranahan was unable to find the target. Monaghan were then reduced to 10 men midway through the first half, after referee Pat Whelan ran out of patience with Johnny Fulham, who refused to turn around and show his number after being booked. It was time for an early shower. You simply don't mess with the match official. For much of the second half, it was a similar story, as Harps piled on the pressure but were denied by a combination of bad luck, good goalkeeping from Vladimir Montanou, and somewhat wayward finishing. Try as they did, Harps just couldn't break the deadlock, and even Shane Bradley, who had got a late winner at the same venue earlier in the season, couldn't score. Despite only getting a point, the Harps fans never stopped singing. At least Harps were up.
Yes, I'm delighted for everybody at the club. I mean, it's well documented what has happened in the last 3 or 4 years. Major disappointment followed by another major disappointment, and so many false stones. It's great that we've done it with 4 games to go, and I'm just delighted for everybody at the club and indeed the county.
The following week, title-chasing Finn Harps came within a whisker of clocking up their best ever win over Athlone. Striker Kevin McHugh banged in his 3rd hat-trick of the season as Felix Healy's side hit top form and scored 6 without reply to go a point clear at the top of the First Division with 2 games left. But they really should have equalled or beaten the 7-0 scoreline of November 1971 against the Midlanders. McHugh's 24th minute strike was the only reward for Harps in a one-sided first half. He was played through by Anthony Gorman and duly obliged by tucking the ball past the advancing Anthony Fennelly from the left side of the box. On 46 minutes, Harps made it 2-0, with Gary Crossan crossing, Michael Funston touching the ball on, and McHugh connecting from close range. Athlone then lost possession quickly after the kick-off, and Shane Bradley launched a long ball forward for Chris Breen to run onto, and he delicately chipped Fennelly to make it 3-0. McHugh completed his third hat-trick of the season. He got 3 against Sligo and Cove as well on 71 minutes. Gorman was again the provider with a low cross, and there was McHugh to stab the ball home from close range yet again. The flame-haired Letterkenny midfielder then deservedly got on the scoresheet. He released Breen down the right flank, and when the ball came across, Gorman was there to slide it into the net. Tom Mohan got the 6th for Harps on 89 minutes as he forced the ball over the line after a move involving both Breen and McHugh.
Well, it was some great stuff, particularly second half. I felt the first half we were very lethargic. The game was said to be very slow, very dead. But we scored the goals in quick succession at the beginning of the second half, and after that it was just a matter of how many we were going to score. And no exaggeration to say you could have got even double what you did? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think Kevin scored 3 and probably feels it. As the golfers would say, they left a few out there, and he had a number of opportunities. But it was good for the supporters. Having gone to Monaghan last week and not scored in the 3 points, a lot of people travelled down there last week expecting a sort of carnival type atmosphere in celebration of getting promotion, and the goal just didn't come. And tonight the goals did come.
Finn Harps' final game of the season was at home to Dundalk. The Donegal club went into the match 1 point ahead of UCD. Victory would assure them of the title, but if they slipped up, there was a real danger that they could be pipped at the post. As Harps kicked off, UCD did likewise, and the students went on to beat Kilkenny. Over the years, Harps have fallen at the final hurdle on a number of occasions, but this was to be a special night before a bumper attendance. Harps were to lift their first ever league title. It was a moment to savour. Harps got off to a great start. Tom Mohan went down the right and crossed. Goalkeeper Chris Bennion failed to hold the ball, and Shane Bradley seized the opportunity. Dundalk battled well, and Harps were well below their best. It wasn't until the 72nd minute, when they scored their second, could they relax. Breen and Funston were both involved in the build-up before Kevin McHugh was to find the target as he crashed the ball home from 8 yards. And McHugh then put the icing on the cake to delight the 5,000 strong attendance 4 minutes later as he fired home his 22nd league goal of the season after a superb run that started on halfway. The rest of the game was a bit of an anticlimax, but when the final whistle sounded, the celebrations began in earnest. For the Finn Harps fans, this was a very, very special moment.